At first glance, an itch might seem like nothing, a harmless nuisance, something to scratch and forget. Especially after 60, when skin naturally becomes drier, thinner, and more sensitive, it's easy to shrug it off as another sign of aging. But what if your body is trying to whisper something important? Something deeper than dryness? Something you can still act upon, if only you listen. That's where awareness begins. Many serious illnesses start quietly. They don't announce themselves with pain or lumps, but with subtle signs, like a persistent itch in a place you'd never expect. Doctors have found that for some people, particularly older adults, skin can be the first messenger of internal troubles. Blood cancers, pancreatic disorders, even breast cancer can sometimes begin with an unexplained itch. It's not meant to scare you, just to awaken a different kind of attention. Think of your body like an old friend. It won't shout, but it will signal. And the places it chooses to do so often have meaning. 5 specific zones are known to react first when something deeper is going on. We'll explore each of them, one by one, not to alarm you, but to help you distinguish between what's harmless and what's worth investigating. Not every itch is dangerous, but when it doesn't go away, when it resists creams and better soaps, when it appears without rashes or dryness and lingers without reason, it deserves respect. Start by asking yourself, how long has it been there? Has anything changed in my habits? Does it flare up at night or come with other symptoms like fatigue, sweating, or weight loss? These small observations can guide your next step and maybe make all the difference. We'll begin this journey with the most overlooked and most common area, the lower legs. It's a place many dismiss. After all, legs get dry easily. They're exposed to weather, shaving, long walks. But persistent itching in the calves or shins, especially when the skin looks normal, can sometimes point to deeper blood-related issues. And often, it's older adults who are affected first. Over the next parts, we'll look at each of these zones with care. You'll hear real-life examples from people who learned to listen to their bodies and what those signs eventually meant. It's not about worry, it's about wisdom. Our goal is simple: to make sure no one misses a whisper that could one day become a roar. Let's begin, quietly, thoughtfully, with your legs. Imagine this. Every night, almost without fail, your lower legs start to itch. You've tried everything: moisturizing creams, changing soaps, even switching laundry detergents, but nothing seems to help. There's no visible rash, no redness, no flaking skin, just a deep, persistent itch that lives under the surface, as if it comes from within. For many older adults, this kind of itch on the shins or calves is easy to dismiss as just old skin. But sometimes, it's something far more significant. In certain cases, especially in people over 60, persistent itching in the lower legs can be an early sign of lymphoma, a cancer of the lymphatic system. It's not that the disease starts in the legs, but rather that it sends chemical signals through the body. These signals, produced by abnormal immune cells, can irritate nerve endings in the skin. The result? A sensation that's hard to describe, not quite on the skin and not quite beneath it. An internal itch that doesn't go away. Take Robert, a retired school principal who spent months trying to soothe the itch on his calves. He assumed it was dryness or maybe poor circulation. He began applying lotion religiously, wearing soft cotton socks, even adjusting his diet. But the itching only grew worse, particularly at night. It wasn't until he mentioned it offhand to his doctor, along with recent fatigue and occasional night sweats, that tests were ordered. Swollen lymph nodes were discovered, and eventually a diagnosis of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma was confirmed. This isn't to say that every itchy leg is a sign of cancer. Far from it. The majority of cases are indeed related to dry skin, varicose, veins, or even contact with irritants. But the key lies in persistence. If the itch lingers for weeks despite all reasonable care, and especially if it's accompanied by other subtle symptoms like tiredness, unexplained weight loss, or increased sweating, it deserves a closer look. It's important to pay attention to patterns. Does the itching worsen at night? Is it limited to the calves and shins? Are there no visible skin changes despite the intense sensation? These clues matter. Your body may be signaling an imbalance or hidden issue, using the skin as a messenger. So, if your lower legs won't stop itching and nothing seems to help, don't just live with it. Talk to your doctor. A simple conversation could lead to early detection, something that can make a profound difference. As we age, tuning in to our bodies becomes more vital than ever. Sometimes what feels like a small discomfort is actually the beginning of a much larger story. Have you ever woken up in the middle of the night with an odd, nagging itch between your shoulder blades? You shift, adjust your pillow, maybe change your sleeping position, thinking it's just pressure from the mattress or warmth under the blanket. But the itch doesn't go away. It's hard to reach, hard to see, and harder to explain. For many older adults, such discomfort is brushed off as trivial. But sometimes, that itch, right in the upper back, can be a quiet message from deep within the body, particularly from the pancreas. The pancreas is a small organ tucked behind the stomach, but when something goes wrong with it, such as the development of a tumor, it can have effects far beyond the digestive system. One of the earliest signs of pancreatic cancer isn't always pain or indigestion. In some cases, it's an itch. Specifically, when a tumor blocks the bile ducts, bile starts to accumulate in the bloodstream. Bile contains salts that can irritate the skin's nerve endings, especially in sensitive areas like the back. The result is a peculiar itch that seems to radiate from within, often without any visible rash or irritation. Linda, a 67-year-old grandmother from Ohio, experienced this exact symptom. At first, she blamed her itchy back on an old chair cushion or dry winter air. She switched laundry detergents, bought a humidifier, and tried different creams. Nothing worked. The itch would ease for a day or two, only to return, deeper, more persistent. She wasn't losing weight, didn't feel sick, but something didn't sit right. At the gentle insistence of her daughter, she finally saw her doctor. After a series of blood tests and scans, they discovered a small tumor pressing on her bile duct. It was early, treatable, and the only reason they found it was because Linda listened to her body. That's the kind of awareness this story hopes to inspire. Not fear, but respect for the signals your body sends. If the itch in your upper back doesn't respond to topical treatments, isn't linked to a new fabric or detergent, and has no visible cause, it's time to think deeper, especially if it lingers or grows more intense over time. No one wants to believe that something so small could mean something serious, and in many cases, it doesn't. But if there's even a slight chance that a quiet itch is pointing to a hidden issue, it's worth paying attention. Don't be afraid to ask questions, to insist on tests, or to speak up. Your body is wiser than you think, and sometimes it tries to protect you in the most unexpected ways. Most people have experienced an itchy scalp at some point. It's easy to assume the cause. Maybe the shampoo isn't quite right, or the water's too hard, or the weather's too dry. Especially after 60, when skin tends to become more delicate, we often blame such discomfort on normal aging. But what happens when the itch persists for weeks, even months? When it doesn't come with dandruff or dryness, and it doesn't improve no matter what shampoo you try, that's when it's time to consider a deeper reason, one that might not start in the skin at all. The scalp is a sensitive area, closely connected to the nervous system and blood flow. When the blood itself changes, the skin may be one of the first places to reflect that. In particular, some blood-related conditions, like chronic leukemia, can cause itching without any visible signs. It's not the skin that's inflamed, but the immune system that's in subtle distress. Extra white blood cells circulate, immune responses shift, and nerve endings begin to pick up sensations that weren't there before, often described as tingling, crawling, or burning, rather than ordinary itching. Take Harold, a 69-year-old retired carpenter. He first noticed the itching while watching television in the evenings. He thought his scalp was simply dry, so he changed hair products, wore looser hats, and even stopped using heated water. But nothing helped. The sensation was strange, more like something was moving under the skin, though there was nothing to see. At first he kept it to himself, embarrassed by how small the complaint seemed. But it wouldn't go away. Finally, after some persuasion from his daughter, he mentioned it during a checkup. Routine blood work showed abnormally high white blood cell levels. Further tests revealed early-stage leukemia, caught before other symptoms had time to develop. This kind of itch doesn't always mean something serious, but it always deserves respect, especially if it's persistent, feels unusual, or isn't helped by normal skin care. Pay particular attention if it seems worse after eating, in the late afternoon, or at rest, patterns often associated with immune or blood disorders. Also, for those with thinning hair, it's essential to monitor exposed areas. The scalp can be vulnerable to sun damage and, in some cases, skin cancers that begin with mild itching. If a spot itches continuously, even without redness or flaking, get it checked. Your scalp may not seem like a place where deeper illnesses would make themselves known, but sometimes it's exactly where the body begins to whisper, and listening could make all the difference. Itching in the chest area is something many people experience, especially as they grow older. The skin there is often in contact with clothing, undergarments, and sweat. For women, it's easy to assume that a tight bra, synthetic fabric, or heat rash is to blame. Men might think it's an allergic reaction to laundry detergent or simple dryness. And often that's true. But sometimes when the itch stays in one spot, refuses to fade, and doesn't respond to creams or better hygiene, it can signal something far more serious, particularly in the case of inflammatory breast cancer. This form of cancer doesn't always form a typical lump. Instead, it may present through changes in the skin, thickening, a reddish hue, or texture that looks like an orange peel. But before these signs become obvious, many people report one consistent symptom: a localized, persistent itch in the chest area. This itch often feels deeper than skin level, harder to soothe, and oddly specific to one area. It may not look like anything special, but it refuses to go away. Ruth, a 64-year-old retired librarian, experienced just that. At first, she assumed the itch under her left breast was from a new bra or heat rash. She applied creams, used hypoallergenic detergents, and even switched to loose cotton tops. But weeks passed, and the itch stayed. It wasn't intense, just annoyingly constant. One evening, while moisturizing, she noticed a slight dent in the skin near the itchy spot. It wasn't painful, but it was new. That was enough for her to schedule a checkup. Her doctor ordered a mammogram, which led to further tests. Ruth was diagnosed with inflammatory breast cancer, found early because she paid attention to something most would ignore, and while breast cancer is more common in women, Men are not immune. Though rare, male breast cancer exists, and its symptoms often go unnoticed for longer, simply because many men don't expect it. Persistent itching around the nipple, minor skin changes, or a feeling of heaviness in the chest area should never be dismissed, regardless of gender. If you notice a spot on your chest that itches consistently, especially if it's accompanied by any hardening, dimpling, or change in texture, take it seriously. The skin often tries to warn us before pain appears. An itch that won't go away can be your body's first signal. You don't need to panic over every skin irritation, but you do need to notice what stays, what changes, and what feels different. In some cases, that quiet little itch is the first thread in a story worth unraveling, before it's too late. Itching in the intimate area is often a topic people avoid. It can feel embarrassing, awkward, or simply too personal to discuss, even with a doctor. Many older adults blame it on hygiene, age-related dryness, or sensitivity to soaps. And yes, those factors can play a role. But when the itch doesn't go away, when it lingers despite gentle care and good hygiene, it may be more than a surface-level irritation. It might be a signal your body is trying, quietly, to send. In men, persistent itching in the genital or anal area, especially if accompanied by burning, minor bleeding, or a small, unhealing sore, can be an early symptom of penile or anal cancer. These are rare conditions, but their likelihood increases with age. In women, similar symptoms in the vulva, including irritation that worsens at night or with tight clothing, can be linked to vulvar cancer, particularly in postmenopausal years. These conditions often begin subtly, without pain or dramatic skin changes. The only consistent early symptom may be an itch that defies explanation. Walter, a 73-year-old former postman, spent nearly a year treating what he thought was hemorrhoids. Over-the-counter creams helped only a little. The itching would subside for a few days, then return stronger. He hesitated to see a specialist, partly from embarrassment, partly from fear. When he finally visited a colorectal doctor, a biopsy revealed an early-stage anal tumor. He underwent treatment and recovered well, but admitted later that he wished he had spoken up sooner. For women, the symptoms may be even more easily dismissed. Mild burning, tingling, or discoloration of the skin in the vulvar area can be mistaken for dryness or irritation. But when itching becomes chronic, especially if it worsens at night or involves thinning or whitening of the skin, it may signal a precancerous condition called lichen sclerosus, which can increase cancer risk if left untreated. These aren't easy topics, but the intimate parts of our bodies are no less worthy of care and attention than any other area. If something itches and won't go away, despite all reasonable efforts, don't ignore it. If a spot feels different, more sensitive, or simply not right, listen to that instinct. A short conversation with a doctor could lead to peace of mind, or early action that makes all the difference. Aging with dignity includes acknowledging every part of ourselves. There's no shame in being cautious. In fact, it's an act of deep self-respect. Your health is worth the conversation, no matter how personal it may seem. By now, you might be thinking, can something as small as an itch really mean that much? And that's a fair question. After all, everyone experiences itching from time to time. It's part of life. But as we've seen, when the itch is persistent, specific, and unexplained, it may be more than a fleeting annoyance. It may be your body's way of tapping you on the shoulder, asking you to pay attention before it has to raise its voice. We've explored 5 key areas where unusual itching can serve as an early warning: the lower legs, upper back, scalp, chest, and intimate regions. Each of these zones has a connection to deeper internal processes. Whether it's the lymphatic system, the pancreas, blood cell production, breast tissue, or the skin and mucous membranes of sensitive areas. And what unites all these examples isn't fear or worst-case thinking, but awareness. In later life, the body often stops shouting. It whispers instead. It offers clues, subtle signs, quiet invitations to look closer. That doesn't mean living in constant worry. It means living in partnership with yourself. Listening. Not brushing off the signals just because they seem small. Because sometimes, a small signal is all you'll get before something becomes more serious. And remember, not every itch is a danger. Most are harmless, fleeting reactions to dry air, clothing, detergents, or aging skin. But the kind that lingers, that resists, explanation, that returns to the same spot day after day, those deserve respect, especially if they come with other subtle symptoms, night sweats, unexplained fatigue, minor weight loss, or changes in skin texture. Think of this not as a warning, but as a reminder of your power. The power to notice, to ask questions, to bring up something that might feel silly or uncomfortable, because your health is worth more than silence. If something feels wrong, even a little, it's not weakness to speak up. It's wisdom. Your body is not your enemy. It's your lifelong companion. It wants to protect you, to guide you, to stay with you. And sometimes, all it needs is for you to listen to a message that arrives as nothing more than an itch. So the next time you feel that quiet urge to scratch, pause, reflect. Ask, is this just a moment, or is this a message? Because in that simple moment of attention, you might be doing the most powerful thing of all, giving yourself the chance to act, to heal, and to live with the awareness that small things can carry great meaning.